The vault beneath your keep is vast. When you are young, you are brought down into the dark stone room, and you are shown a massive towering mountain of gold coins. It is the currency of time, the currency of your days. The pile is so high, so impossibly wide, that you cannot see the floor beneath it. You run your armored hands through the gold, and the ego makes a magnificent, fatal calculation. It whispers, "This vault has no bottom. We are wealthy beyond measure. We have an eternity to spend." And so you leave the vault, you ride out into the realm. Because you believe your wealth is infinite, you spend your coins recklessly. You spend weeks of your life sitting by the hearth, numb and distracted, waiting for the winter to pass. You spend months engaged in petty, bitter arguments with neighboring lords over pieces of land you do not even care about. You spend years trapped in alliances that drain your spirit, trading the gold of your youth for the cheap copper of temporary comfort. When the tremor occasionally warns you that you are wasting your life, you silence it with a single treacherous word: tomorrow. You tell yourself that tomorrow you will draw the sword. Tomorrow you will forgive your kin. Tomorrow you will march toward the mountain you actually want to conquer. You toss another handful of gold into the river, entirely unbothered. In the clinical world, this cognitive distortion is known as time blindness and the denial of mortality. In the language of the keep, it is the treason of the fading torch. We must examine why the human mind is so profoundly desperate to ignore the hourglass. In psychology, there is a framework known as terror management theory. It dictates that the primitive brain cannot continuously process the reality of its own death without collapsing into absolute paralyzing panic. If you truly grasped in every waking moment that you are made of flesh and that the flesh is actively decaying, you would not be able to function. You would not be able to march. And so the ego constructs a massive, heavy shield of denial. It removes the concept of death from the courtyard. It hides it in the deep woods. It convinces you that the end of the campaign only happens to other knights. Old knights, careless knights. It creates the hallucination of permanence. But this psychological armor has a devastating side effect. By shielding you from the terror of death, it also blinds you to the absolute, terrifying value of life. When a resource is infinite, it is worthless. If iron fell from the sky like rain, no blacksmith would bother to forge it. We only value the steel because it must be violently extracted from the earth. We only value the gold because it is scarce. By believing your time is endless, you render your own days cheap. You tolerate a mediocre existence. You tolerate a mind plagued by anxiety, anger, and avoidance, because you assume you will eventually have time to clean the keep. But then, a day comes when the illusion shatters. Perhaps it is a sudden illness. Perhaps it is the fall of a brother in the shield wall. Or perhaps you simply wake up in the middle of your life, walk down into the vault, and look at the pile of gold. And for the first time, you see the stone floor. The mountain of coins is gone. There is only a small pile left. The torch on the wall is burning low. The embers are dying. The tremor strikes the chest with the force of a battering ram. The breath vanishes. You realize with absolute blood-freezing clarity that you have spent half of your campaign fighting the wrong wars. You have given the best years of your life to lords who did not love you and to fears that never materialized. The panic of the fading torch drives many warriors mad. They desperately try to buy the time back. They abandon their posts. They act like terrified fools, chasing the phantoms of their youth, trying to scrape the coins back out of the river. But the river only flows one way. You cannot unspend the gold. To survive this existential terror, you must embrace the heaviest, most demanding discipline of the ancient philosophers. You must embrace the Stoic practice of Memento Mori. Remember that you must die. To the uninitiated mind, this sounds like a curse. It sounds like a morbid, depressing obsession with the grave. but to the fortified mind, to the true commander of the keep. Memento Mori is the ultimate alchemy. It is the most clarifying fire in the realm. When you accept that the torch is fading, the world instantly snaps into focus. The petty grievances that consumed your energy suddenly look absurd. Why would you spend one of your final precious coins arguing with a fool in the tavern? Why would you spend a month of your finite life worrying about the judgment of spectators who will also be swallowed by the earth? The fear of failure, the terror of the untested blade, vanishes. Because you realize that failing in the mud is irrelevant. The only true failure is reaching the end of the torchlight, having never drawn the sword at all. Death is not a distant thief waiting in the dark to ambush you. Death is a silent companion. He is walking right beside you on the march. Do not hide from him. Look him in the eye. Use his presence as a whetstone to sharpen your present moment. When you sit at the high table with your kin, remember that this feast is numbered. You will only break bread with them a finite amount of times. When you feel that truth, the food tastes richer. The fire feels warmer. You stop looking at the door, and you finally look at the people sitting across from you. You stop living in the ghost of tomorrow. You stop waiting for the perfect moment to execute the campaign. The perfect moment is a lie. There is only today. There is only the iron currently in the forge. Walk down into the vault. Look at the coins you have left. Do not weep for the ones you wasted in the dark. That transaction is finished. Pick up today's coin. Feel its weight in your armored hand. It is the most valuable thing in the known universe. Do not give it to your anxiety. Do not give it to your anger. Do not give it to the cheap distractions of the realm. Spend it on something magnificent. Draw the sword, march out into the light. The march continues.